Hey everybody, welcome to the first half wrap-up for the New York Mets here on the Big Recon on Sports YouTube channel. Sorry it's a few days late, but it's been a weird couple of weeks. So I did the first half MLB review on the podcast a couple weeks ago, and now here we are with the Mets wrap-up. Just real quick though, I wanted to show off the new lid that I got at the 1969 weekend, complete with the 1969 World Championship pin, and of course, the number of the greatest player to ever wear orange and blue, Tom Seaver. It has been an interesting first half, to say the least, and that's really not saying much. I'm an eternal optimist. So the t-shirt I picked for tonight, as I've tried to do a different one each time, is simply the last time we ran the table here, the 2015 National League Eastern Division Championship t-shirt. I'll get into why I chose this one tonight in just a little bit. Actually, I'm going to remove the lid, so we'll put that over there. So the first half of the Mets season, I'm not going to go into each month or each series. I'm going to go over basically some statistics, some stories from the first half of the Mets season, and then I'm going to get into where I think this team can go in the second half and what I think it needs to do to prepare for a possibly very quick offseason. So the Mets season started the way we needed it to, with Jacob deGrom signing his big contract extension before the season started. We've had a lot of pleasant surprises this season. Jeff McNeil continuing his assault, really, on the National League has been amazing. The Flying Squirrel made the All-Star team, of course, joining Pete Alonso and Jacob deGrom in Cleveland for the All-Star game. What a phenomenal story Jeff McNeil is. Basically an afterthought in that Mets farm system. Played very, very well in the minor leagues. And now here he is. He's just absolutely raking. The guy is just hitting the cover off the baseball. deGrom has been very good, if not a little inconsistent at times. Syndergaard's been very inconsistent. Wheeler's been very inconsistent and now hurt. Matz has been inconsistent. That's been the big word for this team, has been inconsistent. I don't think it's a badly constructed team. I don't think it is playing up to its potential. Now, again, I'm an eternal optimist. I think they can make a run in the second half, but there are a few things that can't be ignored. So let's start with the stats in the first half. The Mets are hitting at a 254 clip with a 326 on-base percentage, a 431 slugging percentage to give that offense a 757 OPS. It's not a bunch of world beaters on that team, but they are being carried by one guy, and that's Pete Alonso. Pete Alonso, who at the All-Star break had 30 home runs, 68 RBIs, and was hitting in the 270s to 280s. Listen, he has been an absolute revelation. I called it in the preseason preview episode that Pete Alonso is going to be the National League Rookie of the Year, and I don't see anyone taking it from him. Tatis has been good. There's been a couple other guys, but the Polar Bear is going to win the Rookie of the Year. McNeil has paced the average portion of the Met attack. Jeff McNeil leads the National League in hitting. So a team that has a Cy Young contender year in and year out, and Jacob deGrom, who's been a little off his game, the guy who leads the league in hitting, and the guy who's second in home runs in the National League, and the Mets are 10 games under 500. I'm coming to you on Monday night the 15th, so now it's 9 games under 500 after taking 2 or 3 from Miami over the weekend. Now let's get to why the Mets are having problems. It's a 4.84 team ERA. It's a bullpen ERA pushing 6. They have blown 23 saves. Jeurys Familia has been terrible. Edwin Diaz has been marginal at best. I give Diaz a little bit of a pass because as good as he was last year, it's not the norm to continue to be that dominant. There's only been a couple of guys. Really, Mariano. Okay, there's been one guy. It's really Mariano. People will say to me, oh, Trevor Hoffman saved this many games. Trevor Hoffman was a stat compiler who threw a changeup. Mo threw one pitch and just blasted dudes. They do have a lot of strikeouts, 852 strikeouts as a rotation, 306 walks. That bothers me a little bit, not to try and throw any more dirt on the pitching burial that has happened so far this year. But when you have a strikeout to walk ratio of 2.78, now basically what that is, every third strikeout, or less than 3 strikeouts, they're walking somebody. That's been the Achilles heel in the bullpen. You see these guys getting walked. You see them coming around to score. You see them blowing late leads. Think about it this way. As we speak right now, on Monday, July 15th, the Mets are 42-51, 9 games under 500. If they won half of the games the bullpen has blown since the beginning of the year, the Mets would be basically in a flat-footed tie with Atlanta. Considering a couple of the games the bullpen has blown has been against the Braves. As a diehard fan of every day of his life, basically, this has been one of the tougher pills to swallow this season. There was a lot of hype around this team and a feeling that it just felt different this year. And I don't get that feeling often. You usually know going into the season, yeah, you're optimistic, your team's going to do great. We're going to play in the playoffs. But as you see the season unfold, you see the holes that weren't filled in the offseason, whether it be by minor league promotions, free agent acquisitions, or trades. I didn't see these big of holes. No one could have predicted the bullpen would be this bad. No one could have. Not bringing back the guy who was the all-time saves leader in franchise history and the guy who saved 50-some games last year for a Seattle Mariners team, that was terrible. Terrible. But that's what we got. The only consistent arm in the bullpen has been Seth Lugo, and it seems like the one thing that's consistent about Seth, besides his stuff, has been if you use him 2 days in a row for more than one inning, he's terrible in the second inning. Mickey Callaway has not managed the bullpen that well either. And, of course, the pitching issues have led to Dave Island being fired, the bullpen coach being gotten rid of. They bring an 82-year-old Phil Regan to be the interim pitching coach, and Ricky Bones takes his job back as the Mets bullpen coach. It can be said that the Met bullpen was something that helped them get to the 2015 World Series when Bones was running the bullpen. I don't think they should have replaced Ricky at the beginning of the year, but the bottom line is this. They did, and it didn't work. Brodie Van Wagenen had the line of the year. We're going to compete to win now. We're going to compete to win for years to come. Come and get us. We said the other day, starting the second half of the season, they came and got us. What more can you do? Now, that ugly place that is Mets Twitter has killed Brodie. They've killed him. They've yelled at him. They've told him he was the worst. They asked, why are you even going to go sit with the 7 line like he did during the Subway Series? Listen, you can only put together the team on paper. What they do on the field is up to the players, and it's up to the coaching staff to put them in the best position to win. I don't feel the coaching staff has done that. I love Ahmed Rosario. He should not be playing every day. Not with his defensive issues, not with a team that now, especially with all the controversy about the ball, has to pitch to contact. They're not, Syndergaard especially, is not striking guys out at the high volume he had been. DeGrom still is. I mean, he was a little off yesterday, which at the end of the first half and what my review of the first half is, I'm going to get into what's going on this week. You cannot have a defensive liability at the most important defensive position on the infield, nor can you have it in the outfield. Now, Michael Conforto's played a very good center field. He's not a center fielder by trade. The center fielder by trade is on the injured list. He's basically done for the year in Brandon Nimmo. Do I think the Mets need to make moves at the deadline? Yes, I do. But they have to see how the next 2 weeks go. You can't just be sellers because of the first half. The 69 Mets were 9.5 games back. End of August, beginning of September. Won the division by 6. The 73 Mets were dead and buried in August. They got all the way to Game 7 of the World Series. They're not dead yet. They're teetering. The final nail hasn't been hit yet. But I believe this team can come back. I believe that this can be a year that we as Met fans talk about for the rest of our lives, like 69 and 73 and 86 and 99 and 2000 and 06 and 15. Notice I didn't mention 1988. That still stings. If they can get the bullpen to be half as good as it should be, you're talking 10 wins. 10 wins. A reminder, and I've said it 1,000 times, this team that took us all the way to the World Series, that won the first pennant in 15 years, that put on an offensive show against the Chicago Cubs and pitched to the point where people were calling them the best rotation ever assembled. They were one game over 500 on July 31st. One game. They made the deal for Yoenis Cespedes. We got the Wilmer Flores home run. They won the second game of that Washington National Series because Lucas Duda hit two bombs and hit a bomb and did everything. And the third game, they had the 3 home runs and 4 batters in that one inning off Zimmerman. And the rest of the season, into the cosmos. To things on YouTube, if I feel a little down, I still watch to this day. Season's not over yet. There's a lot of baseball left to be played. It is now a 60. Well, it was 72 at the end of All-Star break. It is a 69-game sprint to game 162. And over the next 2.5 months, we're going to find out what these guys are made of. Because the one thing this team never did when Terry Collins was their manager, they never rolled over and died. Last year, this team did not roll over and die. Again, the Mets had the best record in the NL East post July 1st. They just dug themselves such a hole, they couldn't get out of it. They're not in that deep of a hole now. They can get this done. The question is, will they? I don't know. As eternally optimistic as I am, I'm leaning toward no. They need certain things to go right. And I'm not talking about Atlanta to lose or Philly to lose or the Nationals to lose. I am talking about Robinson Cano cannot hit 250 with only 5 home runs. I am talking Ahmed Rosario, if he's going to play every day, cannot boot a ground ball right at him. I am talking they need to move Todd Frazier. As great as he's been. Jeff McNeil's not an outfielder. They need to put guys back in positions where they can be successful. And unfortunately, with the lineups Mickey Callaway has to put out there because of the moves that were made in the offseason, they can't do that. I'm not throwing in the towel yet, but I'm getting close. And for me to say that, that's saying something. I will root for this team till I'm hoarse, can't talk, be the last day of the season, and I will still believe in them until the final pitch is thrown. But if I'm being honest to what I said I was going to do when I started the podcast and everything last year, I have to base it on fact. And the fact is, the Mets haven't shown me much in the first half. Outside of the stars that we have, the up-and-comers, the established ones, doing their job, it's the guys who are filling in who aren't doing it. So it's going to be tough in the second half. I believe they can get it done, but I'm teetering on the edge of saying start building for 2020. A lot of speculation on the trade deadline. Zach Wheeler's been names thrown out. Noah Syndergaard. No one's talked about Steven Matz, but he's somebody they could flip as well. Listen, don't sell the store. Run it back. They can't be this bad 2 years in a row. Can't be. If they are, then the problem isn't with the way the team is set up. It's with the guys that Brody inherited. So the 3 things the Mets need to fix in the second half to make a run, they need to fix the bullpen. End of story. Period. Exclamation point. Fix the bullpen. Or else it's a moot point. It's an absolute moot point. Second thing, learn to hit timely. Chili Davis came here and he was saying, oh, we're going to use the whole field. We're going to hit the ball the opposite way. We're going to not worry about the home runs. And then part of the way through the season, Alonso became the only thing they could watch, and everybody else started swinging for the fences again. Third thing, figure out how to get the starters to be consistent. Find out what's going on. Syndergaard's talking about the ball and the slider not breaking, and Matz has had injury issues, and Wheeler's now on the injured list, and DeGrom had consistency issues earlier in the year. I firmly believe it all starts with pitching. And two of the three things wrong with the Mets in the first half both deal with consistency, and they both deal with pitching. If you can fix what's wrong there, they can get a run in. They've hit. They've never put together a series or a game where it's been both sides. Not since April. Since I haven't done a weekend review in a while, let's review the last week in Mets baseball. And let's start last Monday night. The Home Run Derby. In my beloved other hometown of Cleveland, Ohio. The Polar Bear went in as a 2 seed and took on Carlos Santana in the first round. And he beat him by 1. Alonso's entire Derby run was very reminiscent of Todd Frazier's in Cincinnati a few years ago. He beats Carlos Santana 14-13 in the first round. Ronald Acuna Jr. hits 19 in round 2. Pete hit 20. Then Vladimir Guerrero Jr., who hit 91 bombs. 91. 9-1. In the 3 rounds of the Derby. He hit 22. Pete came up and he hit 23 to win the Home Run Derby. First Derby champion since Darryl Strawberry, who was a co-champion in the 80s. This is the first outright Home Run Derby champion to ever come in a Met uniform. And what a cool night it was. Derek Morgan, his cousin who pitched for him, is from Pepper Pike, Ohio. You see that? Northeast Ohio giving a gift again. But it was a great night for Pete. He wanted to win. I'm not ashamed to say I picked him to win the Derby. And I had friends at the Home Run Derby on Monday night who sent me a lot of cool pictures. I want to say thank you to my buddy Frank Marino and his wife who were there. Phenomenal. I love they're all saved on my phone. Tuesday night was the All-Star game itself, where the 3 Mets all got into the game. Jacob deGrom had a dominant inning, 7 pitches to get out of it. He struck one guy out. The Flying Squirrel got in the game, played the outfield. But the big moment of the night, National League down 3, late in the game, and who's at the dish with the bases loaded but the Polar Bear himself. And a hard single into the outfield, gets 2 runs in, gets the National League to within a run, but unfortunately they didn't get any closer. Shane Bieber of the Cleveland Indians was the All-Star Game MVP after striking out the side in the 5th inning. And guess what? Twice in Major League Baseball history has the All-Star Game MVP come from the home team, and both times was in Cleveland. 1997 with Sandy Alomar Jr. and the big home run off of Sean Estes, and of course Bieber this year striking out the side in the inning he pitched. The Mets then opened the second half of the season against the Marlins, and he took 2 of 3, winning on Saturday and winning 2 games over the weekend. DeGrom was okay on Sunday. He only got to 5 innings, but the Marlins always give him a problem. Pete Alonso, who started out a little sluggish, big sacrifice fly at the end of the game to pile on some runs. Jeff McNeil led the game off with a home run on the first pitch. The Mets lost on Friday, but Syndergaard on Saturday was absolutely dominant. He looked like Noah Syndergaard again. The slider was coming in about 91, 92. He was hitting his spots with precision. He was keeping the ball low in the zone. He's been getting beat up a little bit this year. Bullpen was good both days. Of course, 4 innings, a 1-run ball from the bullpen on Sunday. Maybe I'm right. Maybe they can turn this around. So we're going to close this episode with one more thought, and that's simply this. There is a lot to build on with this Mets roster. You have your ace inked up. You have your number 2 starter, doesn't want to go anywhere. You have a serviceable number 3 in a kid that you drafted from Long Island. You have a good number 4 who said if he's traded, he's not going to rule out coming back. You have an offense led by a scrappy leadoff man who loves to get on base and loves to hit. You have a kid in his rookie year who's going to break the all-time home run record for the team. You have Michael Conforto, who's still 2 years away from free agency, who can play all 3 outfield positions and is very quietly having a borderline all-star year. The Mets have pieces. There is hope, even for the second half, if not for moving forward into the future. There's one thing I learned at the last game I went to. You never count out a team that believes in itself. I believe these guys believe in themselves. Do I think it will pan out? I don't know. But I will never stop believing in this team until the final game is over. As always, the podcast itself can be found on Google, Spotify, Radio Public, Breaker, Pocket Cast, and Anchor. Twitter, at Big Rican on Sport, which is my own personal Twitter handle. Facebook, The Big Rican on Sports, and of course here on YouTube. Hit the subscribe button, click the bell for new videos. I'm going to try and keep doing these every week. It's been a tough first half, guys, but there is no reason not to take Tug McGraw at his word. We just got to believe. Let's go, Mets.